Today, I want to quickly talk about last 3 books that I read. All of them were fabulous, thought-provoking reads. Let's start with the shortest of all 3, To Be Taught If Fortunate by Becky Chambers. This 2019 novella, it's only 140 pages. You can read this in one sitting, was fabulous. Such a different feel to this read than the previous Becky Chambers books that I've read. This felt more serious, more grounded in actual science. Becky comes from a family of scientists. Her mom, I believe, is an astrobiologist, and that background definitely comes through in this book. In it, we meet a crew of a ship, 4 people on a ship traveling to the stars. The book takes place, I believe, sometime in the 22nd century. Humanity has discovered propulsion that allows us to travel to stars in a reasonable time. Of course, there's the relativity that needs to be taken into account, time dilation. But these 4 humans travel to a star with planets surrounding it in order to explore those planets. Each chapter sets us down on a different planet, and we go along with the crew exploring them. And this exploration rang true. Each planet was explored in such a way that you actually felt as if you were reading about a real planet. Things were not overdone. The adventures there were very contained. It felt, and it's written that way, as if these were just reports being sent. At the same time as we're exploring these planets, perhaps meeting alien life on them, we are also dealing with the internal turmoil that these humans, the 4 humans, so far away from everything that they know, are going through. They're getting reports, delayed, of course, reports from Earth, and these reports are starting to be a little bit concerning. I don't want to give away any spoilers, but this book really, in a short package, presents the possibility of future exploration in a very interesting, thought-provoking, scientifically sound way. I really enjoyed it. I recommend it. It's a fast read. It's a different type of a science fiction book. Becky Chambers grew up in a home with scientists and space being something very important. And I think this book, perhaps more than any other that I've read from her, has that at its heart. The next book I want to talk about is Robert Silverberg and A Time of Changes. Robert Silverberg, of course, is one of the giants of SF. This is a classic story. This was written, I believe, published in 1971, so before I was born. It won the Nebula Award, and it's a fantastic story. It's beautifully told. Robert Silverberg's prose is beautiful. It's smart without being too florid, without being overdrawn. I think it reads beautifully in a science fiction setting. But the book does have a little bit of a feel of a fantasy also. Classic fantasy, I suppose. There is this lyrical side to it. It is a fantastic story. We are on a planet many, many years into the future. Humanity has spread throughout. And on this one planet that was colonized by future humans, these humans have changed quite a bit. Their psyche has changed. The society in which they live does not permit the use of pronouns I. It is a sin to talk about yourself. So not only are you unable to say, I want this or I want that, you are unable to express your inner thoughts, your feelings. So there is a huge amount of repressed emotions on this planet. And the society reflects that in great ways. Fabulous exploration of how that seemingly small change could have this domino effect. And we meet on this planet, we meet our protagonist when he's still young, Kinnell. He goes through many changes. And this is also great about this book. Even though it's proper science fiction, there is character development, character growth, changes that we're seeing. I really like the growth of our character. Kinnell changes the most when he has already gone through a lot in his life, started thinking about certain things, but the major change comes along when he meets an Earthman. He's only seen people from actual Earth twice before in his whole life. This is the first time he gets an opportunity to connect with an Earthman, to talk to an Earthman. This Earthman starts a cascading effect of changes in Kinnell's mind. It's a fascinating story, how that happened. I'm not going to give you any spoilers. I recommend you read it. This book, of course, is over 50 years old, and there are some things that current reader will find problematic. Of course, I'm talking about the treatment of women, but I do think there is a fabulous story, an important story told in such a beautiful way that if you can overlook that part of it, you will gain a lot of insight, and you will read a fantastic story, beautifully written, mysterious in some ways, touching on so many things that are happening right now. Use of drugs, for example. I'm in Colorado, where cannabis was legalized many years ago. One of the two first states to do so. There's a lot of talk about mushrooms being legalized as well, and it has happened to a certain extent already. And this book also talks about the possible benefits and the downsides of mind-altering drugs. Just a fascinating story. But now let's get into the last book, which happened to be the first one out of the three that I read, Vanished Birds by Simon Jimenez. This was the first book that Simon Jimenez wrote, published, and it's spectacular in my opinion. Such a big story, such an interesting way of writing a story. There's a framed narrative that is framed, and then there are other frames around it. So it's told in a very interesting way, but it's also told beautifully. Simon Jimenez is one author to look out for. He is young. I don't know if he's 30, not much more than 30, I believe. Just so talented. A quick change of scenery as my dogs were going a little bit crazy inside. So what is Vanished Birds all about? That is difficult to say quickly because it's about so much. It's definitely about love. It's about family. It is about capitalism, colonialism, progress, out of control progress. It is a book that is really epic in its scope, yet lyrical, soft, musical at its heart. This book is gorgeous. The main protagonist is Nia Imani. As it says on the flap, she's a woman out of place and outside of time. Her job as a captain of a spaceship forces her to be outside of time, to be lost and disconnected from everything. This is kind of a bleak story until the moment she finds a boy who fell to Earth. Very mysterious boy. It turns out that she has a deep connection with this boy, but she is not the only one who's looking for this boy. There are forces outside of her. So this is a very interesting story. It's a book that I loved. The prose, again, is fabulous, beautiful at times. I mean, there's so many instances in this book where Simon Jimenez talks about different types of smiles and the meaning behind each one. Fabulous observations. I really loved the book, yet I'm not sure if everyone will. It's that kind of book that I wouldn't push on everyone. I wouldn't recommend to everyone. I don't think it's for everyone, but it was for me. I thought it was gorgeous. I thought it was beautiful. Something in it touched me. There was a bit of remoteness in it also, but I was able to kind of crack through that and find its heart. I think this book was beautiful. And again, Simon Jimenez being such a young author, I think, and I'm hoping he sticks to science fiction because this was his debut. His second novel, I think it's called A Spear Cuts Through Water, is more of a fantasy. And again, Simon Jimenez, with that book, I have not read it yet, but I've read a bit and heard a bit about it, is changing the way narrative, fantasy narrative is given. So he certainly is someone to look out for. And I think overall, the science fiction genre is really in good hands with some of these younger authors like Becky Chambers, and maybe especially if he decides to stay within SF with Simon Jimenez. He's got a lot to say, and he's got the chops to say it. His prose is, like I said, really gorgeous. He's able to write lines that are beautiful, smart, without being ornate. It's a tight book at the same time. There weren't too many parts where I thought things were dragging. So anyway, I think Simon Jimenez is someone to look out for. Let me know if you've read this one by him or Spear Cuts Through Water. Let me know about the other books I talked about. If you've read Becky Chambers' stuff, if you've read Robert Silverberg, what should I read next from him? I really loved A Time of Changes. That book was incredible. So I'm so excited about science fiction. The more I read, the more things open up for me. So anyway, I'm rambling now. Let's end this video. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing if you haven't, and I'll talk to you next time.